Well, friends, I am here to speak about human ironies or ironies in human life in the context of the death of late General Rawat in a helicopter crash in one of the places in Tamil Nadu. I got triggered up to share my sentiments, my emotions, my feelings in the light of the fact that people who are in power, people who are illustrious in one sense or the other, people who are celebrities because of their capabilities or because of their responsibilities for the societies that they come from. I feel a bit disturbed that how such things happen to people who can manage things for themselves or who are powerful enough or whose backings are extremely solid because of their being part of the state, part of the empire, part of the combination of all kinds of strength and all kinds of infrastructure for safety and all. Uh, it has been a matter of very deep grief to the people of India, particularly, and to the people all over the world who get exercised uh, whenever you have accidents killing a people of repute or people of power, positive power. Kennedy's assassination numbed millions of people all around. Lincoln's assassination numbed, shocked millions of people across the globe. Gandhi's assassination felt as if it was the doomsday for those who supported saintliness, supported nonviolence, and supported all the positive forces for the promotion, integration, and establishment of peace in the world. My attention is more engaged to the ironies of life, particularly in reference to the people who are in the eyes of the public in general. I remember one of the great stories of Tolstoy, how much land does a man need? And the answer at the end of the story is that man doesn't need hundreds of acres of land. Man needs essentially 6 feet of land so that when he dies, he is buried within the area of 6 feet of land. I therefore feel much praised from within to guess or to assess the mental state of late General Rawat so that I can't speak only about a few people. I can speak, on the other hand, for the people in general. A glass of water, and that was all he asked for in his dying moments. And a glass of water, only a glass of water, he asked for in the dying moments. And what an irony of life it is that a general, the supreme commander of the fourth largest army in the world, and during the dying moments, what he asks for? He doesn't ask for anything that is worth crores of rupees or crores of dollars. He asks for a glass of water. A general having at his disposal hundreds of things of higher values. But life doesn't need that when you are about to lose it. However powerful human beings may be, but they are shown what really they have been and what really their worth is at the last moments or during the last moments of their life. John Dryden, a poet of the neoclassical age in England, wrote a very fine satire, political and religious satire titled Absalom and Achitophel. And in a context, he made these lines as an epigraph to that great work of his. And the epigraph runs like this: all things human are subject to decay. When fate summons, monarchs must obey. Fate is the overruler. Fate is all powerful. Fate is invincible. Unforeseen things happen because of fate, and mostly in the negative sense. Satya Harishchandra, one of the mythical, most of the people say that way, that he was not a historical character, a mythical character, and made famous in history. He was a king, and his fate brought him down to such a level where he found himself helpless. He had to ask for mercy. He had to ask for some cloth to be used to cover the face of his dead son. And he was at the crematorium, and he had to do all kinds of begging for that ritual. And see, he was a king. And see what his fate brought him to. General Rawat, he was the supreme commander, powerful. And you can imagine his clout as the army general by getting to know this, that he was the head, or he was at the head of the four largest army in the world. What a quirk of fate that you want to have water and it is not available. You want someone to give you some water so that you can give some relief to the agony that you are in. You know you are dying. So people in the army mess, you have juices, you have wines, you have so many other kinds of drinks. But no, These were not asked for. None of these was asked for. He asked for the glass of water. This is what life needs. This is what is the essential thing, essential element that you can extend your life when you are in that sort of danger. Medical aids could have come, and that came. He was hospitalized, but that was for having a miracle because the injuries, the wounds had been, the burns had been beyond 90% as reported in the media. Water. So, water everywhere, something that had been echoed by Coleridge in his great poetical work, The Ancient Mariner. It's an ordinary thing. Water was not available. He might have been given after much time had already passed and his life was almost hanging to be snapped up forever. The point that I want to make during my brooding, my contemplation of the fate or the ironies of human life is that human beings are helpless. You are very powerful, very strong, capable of defending yourself and others, but certain moments come in life that you are almost nothing, helpless to the extent that people get shocked. Can that happen to such a person? Can this happen to the President of America, Kennedy, when he got assassinated? In spite of the fact that the President of America is always in multiple tier of security and safety. General Rawat, when he got onto the helicopter along with the members of his entourage, they might have kept in the helicopter bottles of water, maybe bottles of wine because of the weather conditions in that area in the month of December. They might have taken in the helicopter, kept in the helicopter, so many other expensive, nutritious food items. And there was no water for him to drink when he felt so thirsty, when he felt so much to have some water to get his mouth wet, to get his gullet wet, and to get his system survive in the critical condition. This is what man is. This is what man's fate is. The most powerful people, the most cruelly dictatorial, those who happen to rule the roost dastardly, callously, and they never think that they would be so weak as not to have any support at the last phase of life, in the dying moments of life. And such things happen to good rulers also, good kings also, as Harishchandra. He was Satyavadi. He always followed the path of truth, honesty, integrity. But crisis came to his life. Ramakrishna Paramhans, the world famous saint, who is said to have had the power of getting the presence of the goddess Kali if he so wanted, and he suffered from cancer. The last days of his life are reported to have been extremely agonizing. Mahatma Gandhi, a simple person, living plainly and living as a fakir, living as a saint, and he got what kind of death? Not a relaxed one, not a prompt one, not a peaceful one, that you breathe your last and you are conscious of breathing your last, and you share some of the secrets of your success or some of the drawbacks in your lifelong campaigns to get many, many things improved or reformed. He didn't have that sort of death. See the irony of the man who always advocated for non-violence, who always advocated peaceful living, always advocated singing bhajans in praise of the makers, to have a restful death, to have a normal death. But Gandhi had been shot dead, maybe for 1 hour, 2 hours, half an hour, that he remained hung between life and death. He must have been thinking about his fate. What was amiss? What was wrong with him? What had gone wrong with his actions that he didn't get even the reward of having a peaceful death? A violent death he had to have. And 1 hour, half an hour, 2 hours, that he fought against the dictates of death. What might have been going through his mind? What re-examination he might have done of his actions? What conclusions he might have come to in the light of the punishment, in the light of the undeserved punishment he got by way of a violent death. Mrs. Indira Gandhi, she was the Prime Minister of India for 16 years, and she had to face many, many hindrances, obstacles to the ways of implementations and executions of her policies. And one of them was Bhindranwala, a so-called priest in the Amritsar Golden Temple, which he had made as a storehouse of all kinds of weapons to have a showdown with the government of India for obviously sectarian reasons, anti-national campaign for secession and the related possibilities. Mrs. Gandhi, even after the advice just cautioning her to get the Sikh bodyguards removed because the advisors had suspected them to have been poisoned by the secessionists or the narrow-minded people of that community. Most of the people of that community had sided with the policy of Mrs. Gandhi, and they sided with her because they knew that what was in the mind of that Bhindranwale, a secessionist, was not good for the country as well as for the community itself. But a minority of that community, short-sighted, cowardice, anti-society, anti-community, was enough for these bodyguards to be tempted into committing the murder of someone who refused to get them off the duty at her residence, and dozens of bullets got pumped into her body, frail body, Mrs. Gandhi's frail body, and she died. Who could have imagined that a popular leader, a statesperson like Mrs. Gandhi, who had intimate association with another great Prime Minister of England, a lady Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, would have that kind of end of her life. So many examples are there that bad people, the most marauding, they also get humbled by fate. And then the world knows that once upon a time, so ferocious, so terrible, even death could retreat at the sight of these terrible humans, despotic, dictatorial, oppressive. But in the last moments of their life, this world has seen how pathetically, means how miserably they had to die. Pathetically because people didn't have pathos for such people, because they were bad, so they are going out of this world in that way, would not be taken as an undeserving punishment, as in the cases of Gandhi, Lincoln, and the greatly positive people who had worked all their life for the promotion of peace in the world, for the upgradation of the standard of living of the masses. It is therefore sometimes very much confusing to take a line. You can't take for granted that the end of a person who has been positive all along will be normal or good or comfortable. Devastations occur and unexpected things happen. General Rawat, he was the general. He might have done so many things to get his duty nicely done. He might have been disliked by many people who were on the other side of his policies and programs. He might have seemed to his opponents not a good person. That apart, he was powerful. He had all the resources to keep at bay threats to his life. The seen waves of threats could have been prevented, but this was a fateful day for his life and for so many other lives who had been his colleagues, his supporters, his men. Altogether, 14 people lost their lives. 1 minute's mechanical failure or human failure or sabotage or invisible sort of missiles targeting the helicopter. Nobody knows now. The inquiries have started and things might come out. But as of now, it's a mystery. How could that happen? The helicopter that had been one of the best in the world and one of the best guarded, most securely guarded, how could the accident take place? That also is very much in the minds of the people. Surprise, shock, because when things are not nicely maintained, helicopters are not maintained, or are not supposed to be getting the maintenance of the proper type, then you can take it easily, maybe. But helicopters or planes or aircrafts used by the most powerful people, and despite that level of maintenance, you get this kind of accident, this kind of fatal accident, then you start having some belief or some faith in the tricks of fate. Fate doesn't spare anyone. If it goes against, and it becomes extremely hard, and therefore there is no guarantee to what sort of end you will have, in spite of the fact that you have been always positive, always peaceful, always progressive. One of the ironies of life. And so many other ironies, that when you are in life, people speak against you, directly or indirectly. And once you are gone, the selfish people, the greedy people, the corrupt people, they devise ways to encash your death. And then after your death, they make announcements, statements that contain praise for your work, for your personality. This is another irony. And nobody does anything to counter that. And even if some people counter, there is no point in doing that, because the return of the dead is not possible. It's a mysterious sort of world, and nobody can tell you for sure the extent of the agony and the thoughts and the feelings getting generated in the minds of the dying people. I can guess, you can guess, because I and you are as much human as these people cited already had been. And when you are in distress, sometimes you feel that you are about to die because of some disease or because of something, some accident. And then suddenly you start remembering the pluses and the minuses. You remember the dear ones, and you also remember those who have not been very dear to you. And you wanted something to tell them, but suddenly, without any information, without any premonition even, you don't have a premonition of death so suddenly, and you remain stuck. You are blocked. Your system is jammed. And in that utter helplessness, you leave and go into the darkness. Darkness because nobody can reach you. Nobody can ask you what your feelings had been at the time of dying. Nobody would know. It will all remain wrapped up forever, for eternity. So, as a human being, I felt like thinking on this, that man's life is at the mercy of fate. And the fate that can become cruel without any inkling to you, can do things that even the sanest of the saints would not be able to figure out why, why, why this sort of end to a man who had always been on the side of duty, truth, positivity, in reference to the relative possibilities of man's life. I wish all people get to live nicely and to go out of this world decently. I wish. But I don't have control. I don't have any access to the powers that have created these anomalies. That the worst sometimes they have a peaceful death, and the best sometimes have a very terrible death that is beyond the imagination of normal people. As a human being, you try to find out, but however consciously, however attentively, however focused you are in the probe of the reasons, you don't come to any conclusive conclusion. You remain stuck in the confusion. And that is what has been happening, and that will continue to happen in the future. Man is helpless. Man is incapable of doing anything. Man is incapable, extremely incapable of predicting, forecasting, or having any control on these quirks of fate. Fate, you are invincible. You play your tricks the way you like. Man can only say that man will try to make character win over fate, but mostly that happens in the statements and saying. In actuality, fate reigns supreme, and fate prevails. Man succumbs to the pressures or the quirks of fate. This much contemplation I have been able to do, and this much sharing I have been able to do. Thanks a lot for listening now, or thanks a lot in advance if you happen to listen to what I have said later on. God bless us. Bye-bye.